Well, this is the last one. This is the last of the Cutters MLB series. I've done 33 videos on 34 teams. Yes, the 51 Dodgers and the 62 Dodgers got their own video back to back because, they were in the same boat. The 3-game playoff in which they had come back, were in there but lost in the ninth inning. 51 was in the bottom, both, well, 51 in the bottom of the ninth and 62 in the top of the ninth. They managed to choke those away. Talked about the Padres and how Rocktober ruined them in 2007. They should have won that one game wild card. Colorado, I talked about the 95 team, their first ever playoff appearance, losing to the Braves. What if they made the upset over the Braves? I talked about the Diamondbacks and their second season in existence, 1999, making the playoffs. And what if they did get to the LCS against the Braves? I talked about I talked about the Giants twice, 1904 with the New York Giants and their bravado and all that, and the fact that that was the first of two World Series not to be played since 1903, and the 93 Giants for their practically losing the NL West on the final day to the Braves, even though they won 103 games. Talked about the Houston Astros in essence, with 2015, I talked about their powerful choke against the Royals in Game 4 of the LDS. That ground ball ruined them because the butterfly effect would have had the Astros face the Blue Jays in the LCS. Talk about the Texas Rangers, and I can't remember which Texas team I was talking about. That's weird. Oh yeah, the '94 team that would have won the AL West, but the strike ruined them, despite the fact that Texas was 10 games below 500. You have Seattle with their what if they went to the 2001 World Series as the 116 win team. I talked about the A's and the fact that I can't remember which A's team I talked about. The team, oh yeah, the 75 Oakland team that was looking to four-peat and lost to the Red Sox in the LCS. Talked about the Milwaukee Brewers and how they made a mess of things. I can't remember what year it was, 1981? Can't remember, but yeah, got that one. St. Louis, I talked about. I can't remember which St. Louis team I was talking about. Oh, yeah, the 96 Braves that won the. We're up 3-1 on the Braves in the NLCS in 1996, but only scored one run in their final three games. Talked about the Cubs and what if they made the 2003 World Series and Bartman didn't even happen. Talked about the Reds and their what if. I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head. I'll have to go to the scoreboard because obviously I've completely fumbled it. But I'm a one take guy. Like I do it in one take because it makes it easier for me. So yeah, the Reds. I talked about them in 1981. How the Reds were screwed of the NL West and the NL trip to the NLCS or to the playoffs because of the split season. They had the best record in baseball. Talked about Pittsburgh and Sid Slid. What if Sid Slid in '92 did not exist and the Pirates went to the '92 World Series against my beloved Blue Jays? Talked about the Marlins in 2023 because I had to talk about the Marlins. Washington, the 2012 team, that first playoff appearance since moving from Montreal, and how they lost Game 5 on home turf. The Mets in 1988, I talked about what if they actually took care of those pesky Dodgers and went to the '88 World Series against the A's. The Phillies, the choke job in '64. What if the choke didn't happen and the '64 Phillies went to the World Series? I talked about the Braves in '93. What if the Milwaukee Braves? Well, I talked about the '59 Milwaukee Braves who lost that best of three playoff to the Dodgers in a little known best of three. What if they went to the World Series to try it for the third straight year? The '93 Braves, I talked about what if they had not choked against the Phillies in the LCS and went to the World Series. Okay. Kansas City talked about what if Chris Chambliss's pennant-winning home run did not exist and the Royals went to the '76 World Series. I talked about the Twins and what if they went to the World Series in 1969, the first year of the LCS play. I talked about the 67 Tigers last video about how they, did lost in the impossible dream season to Boston and could have won the World Series despite the race riots. The White Sox, I talked about the 93 squad that what if they had beaten the Blue Jays in that LCS and faced the Phillies in the World Series. I talked about the Indians in 2017 and 22 straight wins, and they freaking couldn't win a playoff series against the Yankees and Sir Didi Gregorius. Boston, I talked about the 2003 squad. What if they had not had Grady Little make mistakes managing and all that, and they went to the World Series. The Yankees in 2004, what if they had not blown that 3-0 series lead against the Red Sox and went to the World Series against the Cardinals? Tampa Bay, 2013, what if they won that wildcard game? Baltimore, what if they had won the 89 AL East in a shocker, going from worst to first? And the Blue Jays, of course, Blue Jays, 1985, my birth year. What if the Blue Jays, went to the World Series in my birth year? Of course, there's one team that I have completely forgotten, and it's not on purpose. This is the basis for the videos. Let's take a look at the 1986 California Angels. You've got Jeff Diamond, you've got one man, you've got a hat, a bat, and that's definitely not all. You got the bleachers, got it from spring to fall, you got a dog, a drink, and that umpire's call. What do you want? Let's play What If. Okay, Cutter, do some what ifs. Okay, Cutter, do some what ifs. So the 1986 California Angels aside, the Angels franchise was born out of an expansion and out of necessity. Mostly because the Continental League was going to be a rogue league that was going to compete against the American League and National League, and baseball decided to expand from 8 to 10 teams per league. So the American League would get 2 teams in 1961, and the National League 2 teams in 62. The American League went first and took Washington, although Washington did have a team before 1961, but that team moved to Minnesota because of financial problems. So Washington got another team back, and also the LA Angels, because the American League wanted to do a West Coast thing, although they were not at a second West Coast team till Seattle in 1969, and that worked out terribly as Seattle would then move to Milwaukee. So they were without a second. Well, 1968, the A's moved to California. So anyway, so the Angels were there. In 1962, they shocked a lot of people by actually taking 4th in that in the AL. They were doing quite well. The Angels franchise picked up some great pitchers, Dean Chance and Bo Belinsky in the early days, and then later on, Frank Tanana and Nolan Ryan were supposed to be the big pairing, which was good, but the Angels just couldn't win games and all of that. Something that the narrative happened in the 2010s with 2-star players of their own. The Angels would get to the 1979 ALCS, but fall to the Orioles in 4 games, 3 games to win, I should say. And then the Angels were decent. They got Reggie Jackson, they got Doug DeCensis, Gary Pettis, Devon White, Brian Downing, Bob Boone, Wally Joyner, those guys. Part of the 86 Angels team that actually we'll talk about, but we'll skip the 80s Angels for now. The Angels were right on the cusp of things. They were the subject of a 1995 baseball film called Angels in the Outfield, starring a young Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Regardless of that, the Angels were just in the wrong place, right time. I know I could have done what if the 95 Angels actually won the AL West and not go through that 1-game playoff, and then, well, they had to choke because Gary Garcia got hurt. I could have went with that, but the 86 one's more tragic, and why I made it last. The Angels would be decent. They won the 2002 World Series. They shocked Minnesota. They shocked the Yankees to get there against the Giants. Tough 7-game series. They used that damn rally monkey to help them out in Game 6. Down 5-love to win Game 6 and then Game 7 on their own turf to win the Angels' only World Series in history. The Angels would plod along with getting like guys like Darren Erstad, Vladdy Guerrero, and Troy Percival, and then they would go in the 2010s hitting the jackpot with a young Mike Trout who was hitting home runs left, right, and center and being a great player, alongside Shohei Ohtani, who the Angels managed to get from Japan. Those two were supposed to bring the Angels to playoff experience, but that did not work. The Angels have not been to the playoffs since 2011, which is a shame. Trout is injury prone, unfortunately. Basically, it's like if Trout is healthy, the Angels look good. But if Trout is hurt, then the Angels look bad. It's the same with Anthony Rendon. He signed that big 8-year contract, and he hasn't played 50% of the games since he was an Angel. So that means trouble. So yeah, Trout and Ohtani left for free agency. Could have been a Blue Jay, but he went to the LA Dodgers. Black. But anyway, let's talk about the 1986 Angels and why it's so tragic. So the 1986 Angels, it was their 26th season and all that. They were the California Angels because they wanted to represent California. Well, Oakland, San Diego, San Francisco say, well, screw that. Anyway, the Angels won the AL West with a 92-70 mark, their third division title. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that in the thing that in 1982 the Angels went to the LCS, won the first 2 games at home, but lost the last 3 in Milwaukee. There you go. So yeah, Dave Henderson kind of screwed them over with that Game 6 event. The Angels had not been to the playoffs until 2002, after 1986. In the offseason, they picked up Don Sutton as a free agent, which was supposed to be huge. Reggie Jackson, as a member of the Angels, beat Mickey Mantle on the home run list and also had a 3-home run game in late September. Don Sutton would become the 19th pitcher to hit 300 wins. The Angels crushed Texas in 5. Kansas City, the defending World Series champs, were 10 games below 500. The Angels in 85 went to the final week of the season against the Royals for the division, lost. California were decent. Oakland, they crushed 10 out of 13 times. They were 50-50 against the Blue Jays. They were actually below 500 against only one team, and that was Milwaukee. So anyway, the 86 Angels had John Candelaria, former Pittsburgh pitcher for the 79 World Series team. Doug Corbett, good reliever. Chuck Finley, a blossoming starter. Ken Forsch, who was an icon for the Astros and other teams. Gary Lucas, Kirk McCaskill from Kapuskasing, Ontario. Donnie Moore, more on him later. And that was not really a pun. Don Sutton and Mike Witt, the tall 6'10", or 6'9" pitcher who threw a perfect game in 1984. Bob Boone as catcher, Rick Burleson, Doug DeSensis, Bobby Grich, Wally Joyner, a young Wally Joyner, AL Rookie of the Year, Wally Joyner, Mark McLemore, a young McLemore on that team, Dick Schofield Jr., and Rob Wilfong. Outfielders were Brian Downing, George Hendrick, Reggie Jackson, Rupert Jones, Gary Pettis, and Devon White, among others. Gene Mock, the manager that went through 26 years of managing, no trips to the World Series. I know that the font is like terrible. April they were 13-8. May they really sucked, 10-17. But June they were 17-10, so they got that back. July 4 games above 500. August 9 games above 500. September and October they were only 18-14. Thankfully they won it all. The main lineup was Boone, Joyner, Grich, Schofield, DeSensis, Downey, Pettis, Rupert, and Reggie. Among other things, starting pitchers Mike Witt with 18 wins, McCaskill with 17, Don Sutton with 15 wins, Candelaria at 10 in 16 games, which was pretty good. Donnie Moore, the closer, alongside Doug Corbett. So the ALCS is where was that? California crushed Boston in the first game, 8-1 at Fenway Park. Then they got crushed themselves. So game 2. So they went back to Anaheim for the middle of the best of 7. California went 5-3 in game 3. And then game 4, they had a close one, winning 4-3 in the 11th. And then game 5 is when it seemingly was supposed to unravel for Boston. There was a home run off of a fielder's glove as they were normal. So anyhow, the Red Sox were in deep trouble. They were down 5-2 when Mike Witt gave up a lonely hit. The run scored to make it 5-3. and then they used Gary Lucas. But Gary Lucas, who rarely threw terrible pitches, plunked Rich Gedman. They took Lucas out for Donnie Moore to pick up the save. And then Dave Henderson had a 2-strike count on him with 2 outs. So it looked like the Angels were going to win the LCS. And then Handu drives the ball to left field. Gone. Boston would take a 6-5 lead on that home run. Now, of course, contrary to popular belief, that home run did not win the game for the Red Sox because the Angels in the bottom of the ninth scored a run to tie the game, to force extra innings, where the Red Sox could have choked, but they didn't. The 11th inning, Handu himself hit a sac fly to make it 7-6. Unfortunately, though, California was unwound, and the Red Sox outscored California in the final 2 games 18-5. It was one of the worst feelings in the world that you were 1 strike away from things. And as Alan Michaels said on the ABC broadcast, the Angels were 1 strike away from Fantasyland because that was at Disneyland in Anaheim for Walt Disney. Nevertheless, Boston had to do their job, and they crushed the Angels and crushed Gene Mock's dream of managing the World Series. 1964 choke job with the Phillies notwithstanding. So anyway, the Angels would be okay, but unfortunately Donnie Moore did not. Basically, that blown save haunted him forever, and then he did something very horrible. He decided to shoot his wife and then shoot himself. His wife survived. Donnie did not. It's a cautionary tale that how one bad play can ruin someone's career, and that hopefully and thankfully Major League Baseball has not had any of those problems that a player made a big goof in the postseason and then committed a heinous act. Not even Bill Buckner did that. So anyway, let's talk about if the 86 Angels did make that World Series against the Mets. So the 86 Angels and the 86 Mets go toe to toe. You see the starting lineups and all of that. Obviously, no Reggie Jackson because the DH rule does not exist in the National League Park. So the Mets not only had the most wins, they did have home field because of the rotation system, but the American League got home field in 85, which meant the National League got in 86. The Mets were dominant. They won 2 out of every 3 games. That's a 667 winning percentage. Ron Darling started game 1 in real life in the World Series, so that's what we were going for. And he faces off against Don Sutton, who was fit enough. Say that California did win game 6, so Don Sutton would not have done everything. So Sutton pitches game 1, and game 1 sees the Angels fall 5-4 to the Mets. It was nothing till the 4th. Joyner doubled to score Brian Downing. Bob Boone singled to score DeSensis and Joyner, making it 3-0. And then Brian Downing goes deep to left center and make it 4-0. Look bad for the Mets. Until the 8th, Lee Maselli came in to pinch hit for Darling and hit a home run down the right field line. Dykstra fouled out the 3rd. Backman singled. Gritch makes a terrible throw, so it's 2nd and 3rd after all that. Doug Corbett comes in the pitch, but Hernandez hits a single to score Backman and Strawberry to make it 4-2. 4-3, excuse me. Carter singles. Mookie Wilson hits into a fielder's choice. And they get Carter. So it's 1st and 3rd. Gritch then would boot a routine grounder. Ray Knight reached on the air, and Hernandez scored to make it 4-4. Terry Forster came in to pitch, but Santana singled to score Mookie Wilson. Bases were loaded, but Jackson struck out. Roger McDowell came in for the save, got Gritch, Schofield, and Boone in short order. Darling went 8 innings, got the win, lasted through the whole 8 innings, despite 4 runs given up. Roger McDowell gets the save. Lee Masilli. Sutton goes 7 and 3rd. Doug Corbett kind of chokes it, and then Terry Forster kind of does the damage. But yeah, the Angels win 5-4, lose 5-4. Mike Witt is not healthy enough for game 2, so they go with Candelaria against Dwight Gooden. Be warned that the Mets used a 3-man rotation. So anyway, Gooden would pitch game 2. And Gooden would rule it as the Angels somehow win 4-0, a 3-hit shutout. The Census hit a single to score Pettis, and then Willie Joyner doubled to score DeSensis. Spoiler alert, Dykstra, Backman, and Wilson were the only ones to get hits off Candelaria. It was 2-0 till the 9th. Jesse Roscoe decided to pitch, Jack Howell came in to pinch hit for Corbett, hit a double, and then Pettis singles him home. Pettis would steal second, Downing would ground out to second, DeSensis would get a double score, Pettis, Joyner, and Jones grounded out. Terry Forster came in to pitch. It was not a safe situation because it was 4 runs. Strawberry struck out, Hernandez walked, Carter hits in double play. So Gooden goes 8 innings, gets 7 strikeouts, but still loses the game. Orozco didn't help matters. Candelaria, Corbett, and Forster combined for the 3-hit shutout. So then you got yourself game 3, 4, and 5 in Fantasyland. Mike Witt starts against Bobby Ojeda. And I don't think Kevin Mitchell was DH material yet. That's Howard Johnson. I would go with Hojo, Howard Johnson, to be the DH. And Reggie was DH for the Angels. So let's see what Game 3 brings. Game 3 brings the Mets to a 3-2 win. So the Mets beat the Angels to take it 2-1. Backman makes a mistake of a ball and Reggie scores. And then in the 7th, Hojo strikes out. Hernandez walks. Carter singles. Mookie Wilson singles. And then Ray Knight singles to score Hernandez. Bases loaded. Corbett comes in to pitch. Santana flies out, but nothing deep. Nothing deep. Dykstra singles to score Carter and Wilson. And then Backman hits a shallow fly to center. Tiny Dykstra. And then Bobby Grich doubles to score Rupert Jones. So yeah, Grich does his job. A double, 3-2, and then the Angels in the bottom of the ninth. Downing gets a double. The census then grounds out. Joyner flies out, and Rupert strikes out. Mike Witt goes 6 and a third, gives up those 3 runs. Doug Corbett goes 2 2/3 of 1-hit shutout. Bob Ojeda goes the whole 106 pitches, the whole 9 yards, and wins. So it's 2-1 Mets. Back to the top of the rotation. Darling versus Sutton. I feel bad for McCaskill. I probably would have put him in. Late, Jeff. And the Mets would win Game 4 to tie her up 12-9. No, sorry. Runway. Mets are now up 3-1. Right? Yes, the Mets now are up 3-1. Strawberry flew out for a sac fly. Dexter scores. Hernandez doubled to score Backman 2-0. Then Ray Knight, after Mookie scored a double, hit one to center field. It was 4-0 Mets. Mookie hits in the fielder's choice to make it 5-0. But then the bottom of the third, the Mets were horrified. Grich walked. Dick Schofield hit a home run to left center field 5-2. Boone singled. Pettis singled. Jackson walked. Downey hits the ground rule double to left field, bouncing into the football stands. Boone and Pettis scored to make it 5-4. Doug DeSensis walks. Joyner whiffs. And then Rupert Jones reaches on a Backman bobble. Jackson scores. Grich and Schofield both are out. Could have been worse. But then Doug DeSensis hits a 3-run home run after Pettis and Boone got on base. So DeSensis does his job, and that means Rick Anderson pitches for the Mets. However, he couldn't hold it. Well, the Angels couldn't hold it as Dykstra hit a Texas leaguer for double to score Ray Knight, and then Strawberry single to score Rafi Santana and Dykstra. Corbett had to come in to pitch. In the top of the 8th, Santana singles. Dykstra whiffs. Backman hits it single. Strawberry singles score Rafi Santana. And then Hojo hits a 3-run home run to right field, making it 12-8, making Terry Forster pitch. Gary Pettis hit a home run to force Orozco to come in the game. Then Roger McDowell came in for the save. Downing whiffs, DeSensis singles, Joyner would line out, Jones would walk, but Bobby Grich flew out. Video Village. Anyway, Don Sutton went 5 2/3. Corbett just blew it. So Sutton thankfully doesn't get the loss. Forster inning 2/3 of great pitching. So yeah, DeSensis and Schofield did well. And Strawberry got 4 RBIs. As Ron Darling went 3 2/3, gave up 7 runs. And then Rick Anderson pitched 4 innings, got the win. Orozco pitched the last out of the 8th, and then McDowell pitched the 9th for the save. So the Mets are now up 3-1. Dwight Gooden will come in against Candelaria. And it looks like it's game over. And it is not. The Mets thought they were going to win, but no, the Angels win 4-2. But good news for the Mets, they go back home with a chance to win the series at home. Gary Pettis singled to score Schofield, and then Mookie Wilson singled to score Hojo. Bottom of the fifth, Schofield doubles to score Grich. And in the bottom of the seventh, Bob Boone hits the double to score Grich and Schofield. 4-1. Carter hits a home run after Donnie Moore comes in for the save to right field. Mookie walks, but Knight, Santana, and Dexter are all whiffed as Donnie Moore strikes out the side. Ken Leary went 6 for the win. Corbett 2 innings. Donnie Moore the save. Dwight Gooden goes 7 innings, strike out 10, but it's not enough. Orozco has to pitch the 8th. But back to New York we go. It will be Bobby Ojeda versus Mike Witt. Can Witt force a game 7? The answer is yes. That the 8th inning of Magic, the Angels win 7-2 to force game 7. The two most dangerous words in the English language. Mike Witt threw a wild pitch to score Rafi Santana. Then Carter gets a bases loaded walk. Rupert Jones then gets a double score Joyner in the 5th. It stays that way till the 8th when Schofield pops up and smokes singles. Jack Howell comes in the pinch hit for Witt because it's National Park. Flies out to left, so that's 2 outs. So it looks good for the Mets. Pettis then would get a single, runners on the corners when Brian Downing hit a double to left to score Boone and Pettis. Mets for the lead. Jesse Roscoe comes in to try to take down the damage, but DeSensis hits a double down the left field line to score Downing. Joyner walks. Rupert Jones singles to score DeSensis. Grich walks. Bases loaded. Schofield hits a single to score Joyner and Jones. It's now 7-2 before you know it. Ojeda 7 2/3 couldn't do it. Orozco definitely couldn't do it, giving up 3 runs in a third of an inning. Anderson pitched the ninth. Carter with the RBI. A lot of RBIs for the Angels. Witt 7 innings of work. Corbett 2 innings. And we got a game 7. The two most dangerous words in the English language. For some, it's free pizza. I think now we got to go to game 7. And in game 7, it was the Angels in the outfield put on a clinic and win 5-4 in New York. They did it. Cue the music. Brian Downing with a single to score Pettis to make it 1-0 in the first. Second inning, Carter tied it up. It was 1-1 till the 5th when DeSensis hits in a double play, but Don Sutton scores after he got singled to right field and did the famous line, DH, I don't need no stinking DH. Lloyd Joyner doubles to score Pettis to make it 3-1. Ray Knight hit a home run in the bottom of the 5th. In the 6th, Bob Boone gets a hit for Schofield to score. Hernandez made it 4-3 with a home run. And then in the bottom of the 7th, Knight popped out. Santana gets a single. Lee Masilli comes in to pinch hit, gets a double. So second and third, DeSensis makes a terrible throw to score Santana. We're tied. But Backman and Strawberry both strike out. Doug Sisk comes in the 8th. Rupert Jones doubles. Grich singles to score Rupert. Neiman comes in the pitch. Gets Grich caught stealing. Schofield walks and then steals second base. Not afraid of that. Boone pops up. And then Jack Howell comes in to pinch hit. Misses strike 3. And then Doug Corbett comes in for the 8th, gets Hernandez, Carter, and Wilson in short order. Pettis, Downing, and DeSensis in short order. Donnie Moore comes in to pitch. Knight singles, Santana singles. Danny Heap comes in and hits in a fielder's choice. First and third, Dykstra flies out, but not deep enough for the tie. And then Moore gets back in strike 3. So he gets a strike 3 this time. Ron Darling goes 6 innings, couldn't do the job. Orozco, good job, 7th. Sisk could not get the out when he needed to. They needed Randy Neiman, so Sisk gave up the winning run. By proxy, Sutton went 7, Corbett in the 8th, and Donnie Moore picked up the save and got the strikeout he needed. So the Angels would have won the World Series coming back from 3-1 down against the Mets and to do what the Red Sox should have done and win the World Series. So that's all for baseball. I've done 33 videos. I feel great about myself, and it's a great month. Now, onwards to football. Are you ready for some football? You know I am. Maybe that might be my theme song. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.